So I'm going to break my sketch down into some basic shapes. So we have essentially an ocean in here. We have these clouds coming up in here. So I don't want to spend too much time on this. We got this rock here sort of in the center. And then takes on a shape like that, and it connects up to the coast here. And then I have a sort of a squat building over here. And then I've got my lighthouse. And again, I'm going to save most of my energy for the painting, but I want to emphasize how important this is to figure some of this stuff out before you get too far into your painting. Okay, so we've got that. This rock rises up, and then it comes down into the painting like this. And you can simplify as you go so that you don't have to get too caught up in details that just don't matter. And that's again a matter of choice, but it's kind of important to sort of solve some of these problems in the beginning, and that's what this does. I'm going to have a couple rocks down in here. There's one here that's kind of nice. I like the way this shapes up. And maybe one or two over here. Okay. So we've got this nice cloud coming in over here. Sometimes I might like to change some of it. I like to sometimes run my clouds behind an object. So this creates what I call depth. Okay, so we've got our lighthouse. It's kind of got a dark top on it here. And it's got this little dark walkway. Half of the lighthouse is in shadow, so it's telling me that the light is coming from this direction. And the face of the building here is in slight shadow. So we have that. The lighthouse is casting a shadow across the roof over here and the side. And then all the fronts of these buildings over here, even though they're white buildings, are essentially in shadow with a couple places that light is catching. So this tells me a whole lot about how light is affecting this setting here. So I want to get that tonal value in. The sky is essentially a darker value than the cloud, so I've got to essentially put this in here as a value. This may seem tedious, but it actually, for taking 5 or 10 minutes to get this done, helps me to understand the structure of my painting so that when I'm actually doing it, I don't have to recalculate these decisions as to what's dark and what's light. And there's some shadows up under the clouds that help to define the three-dimensionality of the cloud. So I get this in. Notice the rocks, the light is catching the top of the rocks, and then the face goes into these darks in here. Partially this is due to the lighting, but it's also due to where the waves hit the rocks and moisten the edges of the rocks so that they fall into a much darker value. Same here on these rocks. This whole face gets cast into shadows up here. There's some darks in these rocks in here. There's some grass. There's a grass parapet up here that is catching some light, but it's not quite as bright as the whites. So we get that in. In any case, you can see that this is the basic structure of my painting. So getting that all in. Okay, and then we have the ocean, which is a little bit similar to the value of the sky, but it darkens as we get into the foreground. So back here, the sky and the water are almost the same value. They kind of blend into each other as the fog sits out there on the ocean. And as we get in here, you can see that the white foam of the ocean is reflecting light, so it's pretty bright in here with a couple breaks in it. And then bring this in here. So again, as I mentioned, when plein air artists go out there, they'll oftentimes take a photograph too, just to back their information up. But the whole purpose of plein air painting is to knock out a painting right on the site, to try to, and there's a freshness to that isn't easily achieved in a photograph. So they paint right on the spot, but the light will change in about 15 minutes. So most plein air artists will start out doing a quick little thumbnail sketch like this to establish their value pattern. So when they get into their painting and the light's changing, they refer to the value pattern they locked in at the time they painted it. And this was especially true in the days before the camera. You know, you had to get that done or you'd be painting shadows the whole day long. Okay, so these rocks here on the top get dark. A little light on the side, so we have that, and some of this. So the ocean starts to get a little bit darker in here, and so I'm going to deepen my values in here as we get close to this coastline. Okay, a few little shapes up in here. These are details I can kind of worry more about later, but these are the windows on the face of the building. Okay. All right, that's pretty much what I need to do. Not too much more to that, just tightening up a couple places here where it gets really dark. So again, you're always looking for, in a painting, you're looking for at least 3 values, if not more. So you're looking for your lightest value, which would be the clouds as distinguished by those values that are around it. You're looking for really your dark values. What's my darkest end of the painting? What's my lightest end? Where's my darkest areas? Down in here. And then my middle tones, which can be any number of middle tones between these extremes, but I have a lot of middle tones in this painting here. So I've established what we call my value pattern. Okay, this is really key. It's really important to understand to get these relative values so that when you go into your painting, you're not just mixing colors, you're mixing the requisite value. So this is what gives structure to your paintings.